Welcome to our fertility tapping session, everyone. So good to be here with you today. It is Infertility Awareness Week, or as we refer to it, Fertility Awareness Week. I think I'm a little dark here on Instagram. Hope you can see me okay. Let me know that you can see me okay. So, we had a little bit of a glitch. We were going to be doing this inside of our Facebook community, the art and science of getting pregnant. And we use a specific app that allows us to stream into the Facebook group, and it wasn't working. And then I found out that it just no longer allows you to do that as of Monday. So we didn't know this in advance to be able to remedy it for today. So we'll remedy it for our next within group event. And we're just going to do it like this for today because I want to make sure that we're together. So if you are joining us on the Dr. Cleopatra Facebook page, if you're joining me on my personal Facebook page, if you're joining us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever you're joining us from, it's a treat today because this event that we were going to do privately in our Facebook group, we're doing everywhere so that you can access it. And those of you who are waiting in the Facebook group, I left you a note there. I hope you've come to us through other channels so that we can be together. So first, we're going to dive in. And normally I try to get right to the point because people's attention spans are low and people are busy. But I want to spend a little time together today, just in a more relaxed and very substantive way. We are celebrating fertility awareness all week long. I mean, every day we celebrate fertility awareness at the Fertility and Pregnancy Institute. There's a really specific reason why we don't use the word infertility, and that's because there are very few people in the world who are truly infertile or truly sterile. The vast majority of people, this is 2% plus or minus 1% of the human population, are 2% plus or minus 1% of the human population may truly be sterile or truly infertile. The rest of the population has the potential to create new life. And even if you're one of those people who's struggling to get and or stay pregnant, and you've been struggling for a long time, based on the data, the overwhelming odds are that you aren't one of those people who is truly infertile or sterile, because such a small percentage of the human population is. And so, with that, I want you to know why we don't typically use the word infertile or infertility, because it's not accurate in describing most people. And it is largely a human construction, a diagnosis that helps us to mobilize resources, to mobilize testing and treatment. And we need those things in the world that we live in today so that health insurance will cover at least some portion, Medicaid, whatever it may be. But I want you to understand how language is different from human biological fact. So when you're struggling to have a baby and you really want to have a baby, there's so much stress and worry that comes with that. And we also know that people who have a tendency toward high levels of stress physiologically and psychologically are likely to have greater difficulty getting and or staying pregnant. So they're more likely to have fertility challenges. But then if you are experiencing fertility challenges, you're more likely to feel stressed and worried and to feel anxious and depressed. So it's like this circular relationship. And sometimes we don't know what came before the other. And really, it isn't important which came before the other. What's important is for us to figure out, how do we get to live in a state of creation as opposed to a state of survival and stress and emergency, which many of us are living in. Certainly, if you're having difficulty getting pregnant, or you get pregnant but you miscarry, and this has happened more than once and it feels like this is what your body's doing and you don't understand why, then it's really normal to feel like you're living in a state of stress and emergency, and that you're living in a state of survival. And yet the energies of creation and survival are counter to one another. And that's, I'm not saying that in a spiritual way, although there is a spiritual component of that. I'm saying that in a very practical, psychophysiological, psychoneuroimmunological way. So when we're in a state of stress and emergency and trauma and survival, and those are all related to one another, or at least have similar psychophysiological underpinnings, it's very difficult to funnel the vast amount of resources that are needed to voluntary functions, or functions that are not essential to our survival. And reproduction is one of those things, just like digestion is one of those things, immunity is one of those things. And we understand that intuitively because we know that when we're stressed, we might be more likely to have a stomach ache, have trouble digesting food. We sometimes people lose their appetite, or sometimes they eat a lot to try to comfort themselves when they're stressed. And we see a similar thing when it comes to immunity. When we know that when we're stressed, we're more likely to come down with something to catch things, because every day, all day, we're being exposed to bugs, viruses, bacteria, fungi. And most of the time, our systems are protecting us from those things that we're being exposed to. But when we are immunocompromised or suppressed because we're in a state of stress or emergency, then it's more likely to pick things up. So this reproduction is follows a similar pattern. It takes a lot of resources to reproduce. And when the brain and body perceive that we need those resources to survive because there's a threat to our survival or a threat to our safety, then it gets stingy with the resources. It doesn't want to funnel the resources to ovulation, getting pregnant, staying pregnant, growing a new life, birthing a new life, breastfeeding a new life. And the body and brain don't know the difference between the kind of stress and emergency that means that we need to run from a lion that's chasing us, as in the case of our evolutionary history, and the kind of stress and emergency that comes from wanting to have a baby and not being able to have your baby yet. So, I want to teach you a method called fertility tapping. And those of you who are already primestering with us will recognize this method and love this method from the Primemester Protocol. And I've never shared it publicly before, and I want to share it publicly today. And we go deeper into the why behind tapping. What are the mechanisms? How does it help you to process stress in the HPA axis, the body stress response system? It kind of mirrors some of the processing and repair that happens during sleep, especially REM sleep. There are important scientific reasons for using this method. I'm not going to go into all of that. I teach about that in the Primemester Protocol. And there are a lot of different variations of this that we can use. And for me, this evolves for me constantly. I'm constantly developing new points for the tapping. And I have some really exciting updates that I want to do for you in the Primemester with tapping, and then maybe also start to do some additional tapping for the 13 stages of healthy conception, so that at every stage you have a specific script to follow or to model after, because each stage brings up its own types of stresses and worries and anxieties. But today, I just want to do a general fertility tapping on fertility, stress, and worry and anxiety. So I just want you to make sure that if you can join me right now, you're not driving, you're in a place where you're safe, and you can take a moment to tune out the outside world and go inside. And let's just get centered for a second, maybe take a deep breath in and out together. We'll do that in just a second. And remember, this is for educational purposes only. And when you use fertility tapping, you are taking responsibility for your own health and well being. This is just a tool that I'm educating you about. Okay. If you want to follow along, you can follow along, but you're taking responsibility for yourself, for your body, for your mind, your spirit, and your fertility. Because the thing is that you can look for a guide, and I say this with all humility. There's no better guide in the world than me and the Fertility and Pregnancy Institute. I know that because I've dedicated 28 years of my life incessantly, relentlessly. So I'm confident. I can say that with confidence, and I say it with humility, not to toot my own horn. But no matter what guide you turn to, nobody can ever fix anything for you. You don't need anybody to. Your fertility is innate to you. You already possess it. The only thing the task that is before you is coming back to your natural state of wholeness, your natural state of wellness, your natural state of fertile, your natural state of mama bear. And sometimes we search outside of ourselves for answers when really the key to unlocking our own innate fertility is coming back into ourselves. And if we look outside ourselves for a guide, what we're looking for is not for somebody to fix it, or to fix us, because we don't need fixing, but to allow people who have expertise to give us tools that help us to tap into what we already know, what we already have, who we already are, and to do that in the most efficient and efficacious way possible, and to use the straightest line to getting to where we want to go, which is to our super baby, right? Because the biological clock loves and needs speed. And so it doesn't do the biological clock any good. And it certainly doesn't do the emotional state any good to be spinning all around, throwing spaghetti at the wall, trying to mastermind this thing for yourself over and over and over again. And so that's what a guide can do. So that's what I'm here for, to do this with you today. And if you are primestering with us, or if you come to primester with us, you'll see I'm taking your hand. I'm with you deeply, deeply, deeply in it. But only you can take the steps. I can show you, I can educate you, and then it's yours. It's yours to take the steps. So let's take the step together today of fertility tapping, and remembering that you're taking responsibility for your own well-being as you tap. So if you're new to tapping, we start with a statement, and we start by using this point on the hand, which is called the karate chop point. And it's just the side of your hand between you, from where your fingers end and your wrist begins. Okay. So, and you can do either side. You can alternate however you feel comfortable. And this is a statement that is just laying the foundation for what we're about to do together. Even though I'm so worried about my fertility, I deeply and completely love and trust myself. Even though I'm so worried and stressed about my fertility, and so worried that I might be one of those people in the world who's actually infertile, actually sterile, I deeply and completely love, trust, and accept myself. Even though I'm happy that we're talking out loud about infertility awareness, this talk of infertility everywhere this week makes me feel even more anxious about my own fertility. And even though I feel that way and I acknowledge how I feel, I deeply and completely love, trust, accept, and honor myself. So now we're going to move into the tapping, okay? So you can just follow along. And if you know tapping or emotional freedom technique already, then you might notice I do it a little bit different from other people. That's okay. You can do one hand, you can do two hands. I'm going to show you one spot that I add that other people don't do. I have other spots that I add and ways that I use the jaw and the teeth because they're directly related to the central nervous system and feelings of stress and emergency in the body, but also because they're intimately the mouth is intimately connected to both the brain, which is our most important fertility organ, and to the reproductive organs, including the birth canal. So I have a different set of points that I use. I'm not going to show you most of those today, but I will add one point that you will not have seen before, and that's here. And this is the throat, the voice, the thyroid, and there's a lot of connection here with the birth canal, the reproductive organs, and also the ability to have the right hormonal balance through this master gland, this beautiful butterfly shaped master gland here. Okay. All right. So we did our setup statement. Let me come back to it just so I can get you back in that frame of mind. And then we're going to keep going. Even though I feel worried and stressed about my fertility, I'm worried about my age, I'm worried about my eggs, I'm worried that I'll never get to have the baby I'm dreaming of. I acknowledge how I feel. I deeply and completely love and accept myself. I'm so worried about my fertility. I'm so stressed about my fertility. I feel so anxious. It's like I'm on high alert constantly. I don't know what to do. I go back and forth between obsessively, manically searching for an answer and then wanting to pull the covers over my head and do nothing, just hide from this problem that I can't seem to run away from. I feel so anxious. How can this be happening? How can it be happening that the most natural thing in the world is hard for me? I feel like my body has betrayed me. I feel like I'm at odds with my body, like my body's my enemy because it won't do what I want it to do. And it won't do the very thing that a woman's body is designed to do. And I feel like such a fool because everybody told me that it would be so easy to get pregnant, whether they said it directly or not, because all they said to me was make sure you don't get pregnant without meaning to. And I feel like, haha, joke's on me. It's actually much harder to get pregnant. In fact, it's just not happening and I don't know what to do about it. And I feel so angry and I feel so resentful. I feel like I did everything right. I tried to wait for the right time, the right person, the right circumstances. And now I'm worried about my age. And now I'm worried about my AMH level and how many eggs I have left and whether I'll ever get to have a baby and whether I'll ever get pregnant and be able to stay pregnant and carry a healthy baby to term. I feel so lost, like I don't know where to go or what to do. It's so painful to want something so much and be ready for something and to not be able to have it, to not be able to make it happen. I feel so worried. I can't stop worrying about my age. Can't stop worrying about my eggs. I can't stop worrying about time, about the clock ticking, about having enough money to get the help I need if I'm going to need help. I can't stop worrying about every little thing. Every little thing seems tied to whether I get to have a baby. It's not like what other people experience where they decide it just happens sometimes without even the person meaning for it to happen. I feel so stressed. And when I feel so stressed, I don't know what to do and I don't know where to go. And sometimes I feel like I'm crawling out of my skin. And sometimes I feel like I can't do anything. Everything takes so much effort and so much energy that I don't have. So, as you can see, as we've been going through these points, we're giving voice to the mind's thoughts, to the emotions, and we are moving the energy around them so that we can physiologically process the emotions. So sometimes it feels really scary to say those things out loud and to speak what your mind is thinking, because we're all taught to think positively, and really the things that we try to repress or suppress continue to live, and they cause a lot of problems in the body and the mind without us being aware of it. So this is a way to process and move through. So don't be afraid of giving voice to the thoughts and feelings, even though they're hard to look at. That's the point. So, really, what you want to do is see on a scale of 1 to 10, has your stress come down in the process of doing this exercise? And if it hasn't, that means that you need more voicing, more rounds of the hard things that have been going on inside of you, in your mind, in your heart. And once you feel that the charge has decreased substantially, then that's your opportunity to also go back and do another round where you put in the positive. So we can let's do that together. So let's just do a few examples. Even though I have fears that I'm going to have fertility challenges or that I'm infertile, I know logically that there are very few people in the world who are truly infertile or sterile. And the odds of me being one of them are very small. I feel confident that it's safe to trust in my body and it's safe to trust in my future super baby, and that it's safe to trust in my own innate fertility. And that if there's something going on inside of me, mind, body, or spirit, that's getting in the way of me being able to get and or stay pregnant, I can take careful, conscious, intelligent, deliberate actions and steps to not only uncover what those things are, but address them at their root so that I can fully tap into my own innate fertility, my own innate fertile power and self authority and get to have my super baby. I trust myself. I trust myself. I trust myself. I trust my body. I trust my body. I trust my body. I trust my future super baby. I trust my future super baby. I trust my future super babies who are with me already as follicles in my ovaries. I trust the timing of my life. I trust the timing of my life. I'm committed to having the super babies and the whole family of my dreams. And I know that commitment is the ultimatum. And for the committed person, there may be stumbles along the way, but the committed person almost always reaches the destination that they set for themselves. If I don't give up, my success is almost inevitable. I trust myself. I trust myself. I trust myself. Okay, so that's an example of putting in the positive. I hope this has been helpful for you today. I want to just show you one more thing before we wrap up, and also let me just tell you a couple of announcements, and then I'm going to show you one more thing that you can use when you're out in public if you can't do this full tapping set that I've taught you today, and you want to use something to help to calm your nervous system and get out of a negative loop or anger or sadness or whatever you may be feeling. So, two announcements. One is I have a really exciting scientific update to the systemic deep scrub in the Primemester Protocol. And I am going to make that update for you all next week. So if you're already primestering with us, make sure that you stay tuned for that incredible update. This update, this one piece alone has been shown in the scientific data to reduce your biological age by 2.5 years. There's a very specific tool to use and a way of doing it. So I'm going to teach you about this in the update, and then stay tuned because in the week leading up to Mother's Day, we are going to do it together in community, a whole large group of us, and it's going to be amazing. So if you're already primestering and you want to get that update as quickly as possible and you want to be part of the group systemic deep scrub, the systemic deep scrub is pretty elaborate, but this one part of it that we're going to be doing in community together live every day for 7 days, then please email us at support@fertilitypregnancy.org and we'll give you the scoop on that. So that's one thing. The second thing is that if you're not primestering with us and you would like to, you need to, you're having difficulty getting pregnant, you're having difficulty staying pregnant, you're having difficulty having a healthy baby, you are worried about your age, you're worried about your eggs, you've been told your ovarian reserve is low, your AMH is low, you have PCOS, you have endometriosis, you have fibroids, you have short luteal phase, you have irregular menstrual cycles, you've stopped cycling. All of those are examples of cases that we've had great success with. If if you have a male partner and your male partner has issues with sperm count or sperm quality, or has some other form of male fertility challenges, or is obese, overweight, has diabetes, has hypertension, or also known as high blood pressure, and all these things, by the way, the reason why I'm telling you these examples specifically is because they've been linked to difficulty getting and or staying pregnant for you. If you have a male partner with these kinds of conditions, they can increase risk of pregnancy loss by up to 19%. So remember, having healthy fertility, having a healthy pregnancy, and having a healthy baby is not just your work if you are a woman or female identifying or a person with ovaries. It's the work of both people providing raw genetic material in the form of DNA and the epigenome. That's where we have power. We can't change our genes. So if you need to primester, if you fit any of these, you have an autoimmune condition, a thyroid condition, if you fit any of these things that I've just talked about, we have extensive experience in the Primemester protocol. And if you are having trouble getting or staying pregnant, or you just want to make sure that you prevent trouble, then I invite you to come into the Primemester. At this moment, we've opened the doors and we have a really substantial scholarship in honor of fertility awareness. I'm not sharing this out publicly, so I'm not going to share the details because it's only for our internal community, because it's such an extensive scholarship that we have to limit how many of these we can offer. If that's you and you need this, or you just really want this, then please go to um, for support at fertilitypregnancy.org. What technical difficulties today? I just lost my connection on Instagram. My phone just died and I lost the connection on Instagram. Okay, even though it's charging, how funny is that? So if that's you, please go to support at fertilitypregnancy.org, and we will we'll help you get the details that you need in order to be able to join us in the Primemester with this internal scholarship. Okay, so those were the two announcements that I wanted to make before we wrap today. And let me just show you. So if you cannot do, all of this that we were doing for tapping, here's a simple way that you can tap in public. Just here on your fingers. Okay. So if you're feeling anxious, you're feeling worried, you're feeling stressed, let's say you're in a board meeting, you're on a plane, wherever you are, you're in the sauna at the gym, although I do the full on tapping at this in the sauna at the gym, but wherever you are, you can just do this really discreetly. You can put your hands under the table and do it, so you can kind of do it in private, even if you're in public. So I hope that this serves you beautifully. Let me know if you have any questions about fertility tapping. Let me know if you want more. Let me know about your experience. And I wish you peace on your conception journey. And I'm very much honored and in appreciation to be here with you on your journey and to support your peace and your straight line, because for me, that's the goal, the straightest line possible to your super baby. I will be back to see you again next week, and sending you off with warmest wishes.